10, 9, 8, 5.
It's just until it's live. It's live now, and then you're counting live, because it's 10 seconds.
It's live right now.
Well, now what happens is you count.
Oh, good. I don't know when we're starting. It's good to be here. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Today's the second day of August, 2016. This is the fourth Weber County Commissioners, the regular meeting. I hope you're all having a great summer, and we hope you all make it out next week to our great Weber County Fair. We think it's going to be the best fair yet. I've got my pen here. It says "Hop to it." That's the tagline, and so.
I got my old pen. It says Jawsome.
Yep, that's an old one.
I can tell who likes me and who likes you.
You're just behind, Commissioner. So we hope that you make it out to the fair. We've got some really neat things going on. We've got a concert that we booked before they got popular, and we're excited to have Brothers Osborne come. We could never afford them today, but we're glad that they're coming, and some other really exciting things going on. So we look forward to seeing you there. We will begin our meeting today with an invocation offered by Mr. Ricky Hatch, and our Pledge of Allegiance offered by, or led by Paige Greenhall, and our thought of the day with Commissioner Ebert.
Our dear kind Heavenly Father, we are thankful this morning for the blessings we enjoy. We're grateful for this land of liberty and for the sacrifices made by so many before us. And we pledge unto Thee our commitment to protect those unalienable rights that Thou hast given to us. And we ask that Thy Spirit will be with us today, that we can use wisdom and base our decisions on principles of freedom and liberty. We're thankful for all those who come and participate in government, either as elected officials, employees, citizens, and other volunteers and interested parties, and we are grateful. We dedicate this meeting unto Thee and say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Please rise and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, believe it or not, I have more than one thought today.
Hard to believe.
So, Mr. Robert Hunter, who runs United Way, is so kind to always send us wonderful thoughts that usually kind of get me going in the right direction. I got to find it though. The way you see people is the way you treat them, and the way you treat them is the way they become. One thing I learned really early in my last career is that you teach people how to treat you. And the way you treat them usually is the way they treat you back. So that's something that I've tried to do as a commissioner. That's my thought of the day.
Thank you. You weren't going to read that other one?
I couldn't find it.
That good one?
Yeah, I didn't want to read the one that you wanted me to.
This one?
I'm not reading it.
What about your paper next to you? Why don't you go through all those and read some of those?
I couldn't find it in there.
Okay.
He wanted me to read this one. If you kick the person in the pants who's responsible for most of your trouble, you wouldn't be able to sit down for a month. See, you teach people how to treat you.
Thought that was a good one. All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Hatch and Paige Greenhall. We appreciate that. Paige has just rejoined us from her maternity leave, and I'm telling you, don't know. It was a long time, Paige. We missed you. Let's just put it that way. We miss you when you're gone. Glad that you're back, and I think the baby's doing well, right? All right, so we'll move to our presentations, and Ricky Hatch is going to present to the Elections Office a presentation of the National Elections Administration Best Practices Award.
Thank you, Commissioners, and we'll go ahead and have our elections team come on up, if you don't mind. They don't particularly like the spotlight, but they have no choice. So that's, as I've been involved with elections officials across the country, one of the most common areas of training and concern is the recruiting, training, and maintaining and administering of poll workers. It's a challenge nationwide, and the reason why is because we have 4 of our elections team here today. On a standard election day, that number swells up to over 600 employees that have to be trained and have to function perfectly, all within one day, handling some very complex situations. Now, in Weber County, we're fortunate because moving towards by-mail elections, we've been able to reduce the number of poll workers that we need dramatically, and so that simplifies that process. But it still is quite a challenge managing so many individuals with such complex issues, with questions throughout the day in so many various locations. Now, Ryan Cowley, our elections director, came up with an idea a couple of years ago, and we've implemented it over the past year and a half, that simplified and streamlined the communication efforts with our poll managers and poll workers. What we did is our poll workers logged in or would send a text to a cell phone number or to a phone number that we created with Google Voice. And so it was a free number to the county to create and manage. And then what we could do was send out blast emails or blast text messages to all of our poll workers if we needed to communicate with all of them en masse. And then when they had an issue, rather than call us, get a busy signal or go to voicemail, and then we'd have to check voicemail, and while we're checking voicemail, we're getting 2 more calls that will go to voicemail. What they do is they send a text message. It's converted into an email message that goes to all of our staff, and they can then manage this as email, even though they're sent by text messages. This was a great tool at no cost to the taxpayer that allows us to streamline our communications with poll workers. This was recently spotlighted in a national elections newsletter called Electricity. It's based out of Chicago, the organization that publishes it. When that was published on how we used this, we received calls as far east as New Jersey and as far west as Orange County from their elections department saying, please tell us more about how you do this, because this looks like a great idea. This was very well received, saved the county money, and dramatically improved the happiness of our poll workers and poll managers as well as our own staff, and made it a much more pleasant election day experience. So we applied for a Best Practice Award with the National Association of County Recorders, Election Officials, and Clerks, and we're the only county to receive a Best Practice Award in the areas of elections this year. So it was quite an honor to receive that. So they presented us with this acrylic plaque, and so it's my pleasure to present that to our elections team for the great work that they did. And I'll have Ryan see if Ryan or anybody else wants to say anything about this.
I don't have anything to add to it, other than it's worked really well for us, so.
Good. I meant to correct any incorrect things that I said. Okay. It's okay to have a picture up front. Is that all right?
Well, yes, we would love you to come for a picture. And I want to thank the election staff. They have done a phenomenal job. Going to all by mail was a transition since I've been here, and that's been a scary thing. And everybody was scared that somebody was going to do everybody else's voting and all that. And I think that the security procedures have been good, and I think it's been a good thing for our public. Still kind of sad that a third of the public, or 2/3 of the public, still doesn't vote, even though they get them right in their hands. We put them in their living room. Maybe we can get poll workers and go help them vote at home. And so it's just important to get them involved. But I appreciate all you're doing all your effort to do that. It's a great office. Ricky, you do a great job with your responsibilities, and we really appreciate what you do for the county. So thank you. I don't know if anyone else wants to add to it, but I'm sure.
No, you just do great work. It's like Groundhog's Day. I only see you once a year, and then you guys run back and get right back to work. So you do an amazing job. Thank you.
One of the things that I wanted to mention was the fact that, from time to time, we participate quite as much as we can with our counterparts in other counties throughout the state and the nation. And I think this is a good example of the fact that there are things to be learned from each other. And I just have always been grateful that those associations give us the opportunity to bring best practices back home. Now, granted, we're usually the ones leading the charge, and we appreciate that, but I think some of that comes from the fact that we participate well with others, we learn well from others, and we just are always looking for a better way to do things. I think this is just a really good example of that. So thank you for that good and hard work. And I don't know if anybody else noticed, but 3 of the 4 have on purple today. And I don't know if that's a little Weber State pride thing going on, but I think a lot like Weber State. Appreciate you very much. Let's give him a hand and we'll do a picture.
You guys might have to squeeze in just a little bit more. Matt Bell, I got you edited out. All right, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Guys, all the fun stuff's gonna happen now.
Okay, we'll move along. Our first item is our consent items. Item number 1 is a request for approval to ratify purchase orders in the amount of $21,454.23 dated July 26th of 2016.
That would be 21,000.
Did I say 20? Okay, 21,454.23, July 26th of 2016. Request for approval of purchase orders in the amount of $242,214.90. Request for approval to ratify warrants number 407166 through 407394 in the amount of $1,385,601.72, dated July 26th of 2016. Request for approval of warrants number 407396 through 407705 in the amount of $1,522,902.10. Request for approval of the minutes for the meetings held on, July 5th has already been approved, so it would be the meeting held on July 19th of 2016. Is that right, Fatima? Okay.
Did July 5th.
Request from the Weber County Tax Review Committee for approval of a refund in the amount of $1,046.84 on parcel number 08-006-0030 and 08-006-0031. Request for approval of the calculation of rollback tax in the amount of $52.12 for parcel number 15-478-001 and 37.77 cents for parcel number 10-043-0065. Request to ratify a contract by and between Weber County and Action Target for work to be done at the Weber County Sports Shooting Complex. Request for approval of retirement agreements by and between Weber County and Richard Diamond, Linda Anderson. Request for approval of contract by and between Weber County and the State of Utah Department of Natural Resources for reimbursements of funds to the county from the DNR for work completed on the Northern Utah Flood Control Mitigation Project. Request for approval to set the date of August 15, 2016 at 6 p.m. for a public hearing to consider a Weber County property tax increase of approximately 25% or $8,162 to fund employee compensation and capital projects. Request from the Department of Operations for approval to surplus a GBC Shredmaster, and request from the Attorney's Office for approval to surplus 2 fax machines and 5 office chairs. Well, there was a mouthful, Commissioners. Mr. Hatch, anything you'd like to point out today?
You bet. So we have 2 weeks' worth of purchase order and check warrant registers. The first PO run was only 14 POs for $21,000. 79% of that, or $17,000, was software maintenance for the library. The second PO run had 23 purchase orders for $242,000. 41% of that, or $100,000, was for the health department, and that was mixed between vaccines and a sound system upgrade for their auditorium. 23%, or $56,000, was for IT for software. 8%, or $20,000, was for the ice sheet for heating, air conditioning repairs and replacement. 6%, or $15,000, was for the jail for maintenance of the live scan product. Another 6% was for the sheriff's office for rifles, and another 6%, or $14,000, was for the transfer station for temporary services and baler supplies. For our check run, we had 2 weeks ago, we had 230 checks for $1.4 million. 19% of that, or $263,000, went towards the 4400 South construction project in Riverdale. 14%, or $191,000, was our monthly payment to the paramedics. 12%, or $169,000, was our monthly payment to human services. 7%, or $95,000, went to our public defender services. 5%, or $69,000, went to the jail, and that was primarily utilities and food. Finally, this week's check run, 311 checks for $1.5 million. Half of that, 54%, or $828,000, was health and dental premiums. 13%, or $204,000, was for the library, and that was for books, materials, and software. And then 5%, or $81,000, was for Weber Housing, and that went towards housing payments.
Okay. Any questions, commissioners, on those consent items? Comments? Okay, let's move along.
I'll make a motion, we adopt the approve the consent items as read.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second then to approve those consent items. Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it passes. Okay, to our action items. Item number 1 is consideration for adoption of a resolution authorizing the Weber Area Dispatch 911 and Emergency Services District to create a local building authority, authorizing incidental action and related matters. I've been told that Mr. Wade is not here. Dave, do you want to kind of lead us in that, or?
Yes, sir. I'm the shorter, wider version of Blake Wade. Pleased to do so.
Okay. Wiser.
Wiser.
I'm not sure I could assert that, but a little background information. Years ago, the commission created the 911 Weber Area Dispatch Emergency Service District. It is a special service district. As such, the commission decided to authorize or grant an administrative control board all the powers to run day-to-day operations. However, by statute, there's two powers that you may not grant to the administrative control board. One is the issuance of bonds, and the second is raising of taxes. Taxes never go down, they're always raised, right? That's not even funny, is that what you're saying?
I retract the wiser.
At least on a federal basis. In any event, Mr. Wade and I kicked this around for a while to see how we might best approach this, because the district itself is not going to issue the bonds. They are going to create a local building authority to issue those bonds, much like we had before and may still have partially on our conference center and this building. Those are lease revenue bonds, which require a property interest, and the district would like that property interest, and Ogden City has agreed to give them that property interest in the building that they now possess and in the building that will be added. In an abundance of caution, what we decided to do is have the commission do two things. That is, authorize the district to create the building authority and set a maximum amount on those bonds. Both things are in this short resolution, which you're authorizing them to create a local building authority and allowing them to issue bonds up to $6 million. Unless you have further questions, I would recommend you approve the resolution as they are looking forward to moving on with their construction.
I'm fully aware of it, so I don't need to ask any questions. You knew James, and I can answer them for you.
No, I was going to give our our director a chance to maybe to talk briefly about the purpose of the creating the building authority, unless you think that there's no need to. I don't.
see
Check
any.
too, Jonathan Ward, our financial advisor's here too. I don't know if either of them have comments, so.
Yeah, so I was going to give a little time maybe to Tina to talk briefly about the need, and then our financial advisors to maybe go over the parameters to help us have. We sit on the Administrative Control Board, so I know most of this, but, and Commissioner Gibson probably knows a tremendous amount about it, but I'm not sure the public does as a whole.
Good morning. So the need for a
You do
building
need to
authority
state your
or
name.
for
You do need to
Tina?
state your name for the record.
Tina Matthew. Thank you. So are you asking me to speak to the need for the building and the space?
Yeah, if you could. And then
Okay.
I'd also, we have had tremendous participation from Ogden City in the property interest and their willingness to donate property and to donate a portion of space we've been leasing. And then maybe even, if you want Mayor Molesky to talk briefly about Morgan County and their willingness to cooperate in
Okay.
911.
So the district has been renting about 3,100 square feet from Ogden City for the last 15 years. And they're getting ready to pay off their bond on their building. And so essentially we've been in the building the entire time since they created the building or built the building. When we talked to them about the possibility of expanding, because as we've researched this building project for the last 8 years, the expansion seemed to be the most efficient, cost-effective, and the smartest way, safest route for us to go. So when we met with them, they came back and offered to essentially gift us or allow us to own the portion of the building that we've been renting for the whole time, because we've essentially paid for that piece, and gift us a piece of property just south of the building where we could add approximately 9,000 square feet onto that. So we will be going from 3,200 square feet to just over 12,000 square feet. And we will be expanding the second floor on the far south end would give our dispatchers about a 4,000 square foot area for the dispatch, the 911 floor. Right now we have 16 positions and we would expand that, but we would also not max out that area and have enough room to expand over the next 25 years in this area. So that was the fact that Ogden City will gift us the property and then let us own the area that we've basically paid for was very good financial option for the district, because now we have ownership in something. So Ogden City's been great to work with, and we have got the plans done. We are going tomorrow before the Ogden City Planning Commission to get final approval on the elevations. And if things stay on target as they are planned right now, we will be putting a shovel in the ground mid-October.
So do we feel like so we're gonna go 4 times? We're going from 3,000 square foot to 12,000 square feet?
Correct. Right now we have several offices where we have 3 and 4 employees in one office. The dispatch floor, we have significant background and crossover bleed from the call takers onto radio channels because everyone is sitting so close to each other. The district hired an outside consultant in 2008 who performed a pretty in-depth study. I think it ended up coming back about 100 pages, and said that at that time we needed more space and didn't have the area that we needed. And so we are very cramped, and we are doing the best we can with what we have. And we appreciate the opportunity to expand that and give our dispatchers some more room so that they can have a little bit more space, and it can be a little bit separated. So we're not having, sometimes when we pull tapes, we'll hear someone that's keying up a radio mic. You'll hear the call taker in an aggressive or in a louder manner trying to control a caller, things like that on the radio. And so it is a problem. It becomes an officer safety issue as well. So
I can't remember the exact numbers, but I thought the study recommended up to 25,000 square feet, and through the evaluations that we've gone through over the last year, we really felt like 12 to 14,000 square feet probably would meet the present need into the future, 10 to 15, maybe 20 years. So seemingly, this is an appropriate square footage moving into the future with the planned growth in the 2040, 2050 plan.
So
Correct.
it would have to make us concerned if some organization thinks that we need 25,000 square feet and we got 3, we'd have to be real subject to that. I would think
Yeah.
we'd think
Well,
that
I
these
think-
people are crazy.
Yeah, I think that's why we didn't spend $12 million,
Yes.
which is, I think, what the initial estimate was.
It was 19 million in our building right
Okay.
now. We're applying for 5.2 million.
So I think this has been a very progressive approach, but also has been very financially, I think, we've spent a lot of time looking at what we need to be financially responsible in building the size of the facility. And then having the partner in Ogden, I think, has been a tremendous asset. And I think some of this, again, is timing with their bond coming to fruition as far as being paid off and their willingness to, and the want to keep this center downtown, which I think Mayor Molesky had an eye on from the very beginning. Let's keep it centrally located. So I don't know what else we could do as far as square footage and price to lean it out to this point. So
Well, we're not planning on raising taxes because Morgan County's going to pay more of their share, so you might want to explain that.
We are renewing our contract with Morgan County. They've been with the district since the creation of the district. So we obviously dispatch for all of Weber County and all of Morgan County. Morgan County has a significant relationship with Weber County through the Weber County Sheriff's Office, the jail, the Metro Strike Force, the gang unit, the SWAT team, and
CSI.
also through dispatch. What's that? CSI. And that's just within public safety. I know with the health department and other things. So Morgan County, for a long time, has been paying not very much for their contract. Right this year, I believe it's $83,000. As the board looked at when the contract was coming up, has looked at how if we're going to raise taxes because we need additional revenue, how can we continue to put all of that on the shoulders of the Weber County residents when the Morgan County residents are getting a phenomenal service at a very, very inexpensive rate? And so as things were reviewed and many discussions, it was decided that Morgan County would be charged at a similar tax rate as the Weber County residents are, since they're getting the exact same service. And that is where the new dollar amount came up. So the new contract price right now, today it's $83,000. It expires December of 16. We've been working with them to get a new contract in place that would go into effect January 1 of 17, which would be in the amount of $273,000 plus their 911 surcharge, which would be approximately $70,000 to $75,000. So we'll have that additional.
So that'll pay the bond payment.
Most of it.
Well, I always regret when I let Mayor Molesky take the microphone, but I think this is probably as good a time as any. You got anything to add, Mr. Mayor? We appreciate you and your leadership on that 911 service board.
Thank you.
And she's pretty well covered up, but I just wanted to
She
see
did.
if you had
She
anything
did.
else you wanted to say.
And it's Toby Molesky for the record. Yeah, she did cover it very well. In addition to the increased Morgan revenues, we will also not be making a payment to Ogden City for rent as well, which I believe is about $90,000 a year.
That's helpful.
So it's very helpful in getting the building built, and it is truly a 20 to probably a 30-year plan for space needs. Because as the county grows, it's not necessarily means the call volume is going to increase, but we at least have the option to expand when necessary. And we've been very frugal, and having that spot donated by Ogden City is absolutely great.
Sounds like there's some really positive things going on, and this is a tough job. I mean, I look at the way that some of the challenges that our dispatchers have. It's a tough job, and we appreciate the effort that goes into maintaining that service for all of us, and kind of key to all of law enforcement. So we thank you both.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank
it
you.
very much. Okay. Do you have anybody from the financial team like to say anything or any questions on that end? Okay, they're good unless you have questions.
So what's resolution number?
25.
I'll make a motion, we accept resolution number 25, authorizing the Weber Area Dispatch 911 to create a local building authority.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the resolution number 25. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote on the resolution.
Commissioner Ebert?
Aye.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Chairperson?
Aye. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, to item number 2, request for approval of contract by and between Weber County and Peterson Incorporated for baffles and supports at the shooting range. Eric.
Eric Jones, Weber
Thanks.
County Sheriff's Office. How you doing this morning, Commissioners?
Good. How are you?
Good. This hopefully will be the last piece of the puzzle
Hope so.
that we've trying to accomplish out there, but this will provide, when our original plan, as you're aware, we had looked at putting a cement roof on top of that range, and due to engineering issues and the size of our piece of property and the earthquake code change, we elected not to do that. So then we came up with several different plans how to contain the rifle range so we could open it to the public. And so we finally come to our final plan, which involves 7 overhead ballistic baffles, 4 of them being 16 feet wide, and then 3 additional ground traps. So we believe we've got all of our possible avenues covered out there. So this will be the last of the 3 contracts to get that project started.
So one of the things that, Eric, that I appreciate, and I'm glad our bidder on it is one of our local Weber County companies.
Absolutely.
You know, it's so often that we say how much we want business in Weber County and we support everything in Weber County, but then we don't use our own local businesses. So I appreciate them being able to come in and qualifying for the loan, qualifying to do that. So I appreciate your work on that. I'm anxious. When do you expect to be able to start using the rifle range?
It's all dependent on the ballistic steel now. So I was hoping for September, but with this last contract, they're going to have to order a considerable amount of AR-500 steel. So realistically, mid-October. Still trying to make the hunting season is what my hope is.
Okay,
So.
great. We'll be glad to see that rifle range up and running. Thank you.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Eric, will you pass on our thanks? I know this is one of those areas in the county, maybe very, very unique, in which most of your employees, it's kind of hard to fire them because we don't pay them anything at
Absolutely.
all, absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And I've just had really good experience with them and the work that they do on a volunteer basis. And I just want to make sure that they recognize our appreciation for them. They do this because they believe in it and because they want to serve, and they just do a tremendous job at it. So will you please pass that on?
I will, and in fact, if you guys would like, we are having an appreciation dinner for them on the 29th of August, a barbecue out there. We're having the range open for just the employees and their families, and then we're catering a little barbecue to them that night,
The date on that?
29th of August.
What
They're
time?
up to, as of, these are just June's hours, they're up to, or rather from January to June of this year, 6,907 volunteer hours. That would cost the county a phenomenal amount of money if we had to pay even.
Even
So
what
it's-
little we pay, it
Absolutely.
would
If we
still
had
cost a
sheriff's
lot of
deputies out
money.
there.
I agree.
Absolutely.
So it's a real likelihood that we will realize like 14 or 15,000 hours by the end of the year donated.
And that's those are just on the 50-yard range. Now, once we open this rifle range, that's 4 more volunteers per hour for every hour open.
Absolutely
So
amazing.
we're gonna quadruple that number
That's
by next year.
$5,000-$600,000 easily in
So
savings.
they do a great job. I've had, and I don't know if I mentioned this last time, but out of those hours since January, I've had 3 volunteers call in sick that entire time. That's phenomenal, especially when you figure their average age is 65. So,
What
and when they
time?
call, they try to find someone to cover their shift. So they do a phenomenal job. Very proud of them.
What time at the shooting range?
It will be, the dinner, I believe, is at 6, and then we're going to have it open all day long, so you guys can come out and shoot with them as well. So 10 o'clock till we'll have the open shooting just for the volunteers. It'll be closed to everyone else.
Then at 6 p.m. is the
And then dinner at the Sims Village for them.
great.
So, Eric, I have a question. I don't recall this in our capital projects. Funding to pay this contract, is that coming out of?
We have a ramp
We
grant
have
to
a mo-
cover the
yeah.
bulk of this.
So the
That
bulk
we had
of this-
originally got the original ramp grant for the roof structure, ended up not being able to get that structure going, so the bulk of that money is coming from the ramp grant.
Wonderful.
That makes me feel much better.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, any other questions, comments, commissioners?
I'll make a motion, we accept a contract by and between Weber County and Peterson Inc. for the rifle range baffles and supports.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second to approve this contract. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It passes. Thank you. Jennifer, next is the request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and Ogden Friends of Acoustic Music for the third annual Roots and Blues Festival held at the North Fork Cutler Flats Bowery on the dates of August 26th through 28th.
Good morning. This is our contract with the OFOM to do the Roots and Blues Festival at North Fork. I think this is the third year up there. If you guys haven't been up, that's quite an environment to sit and listen to the
Amazing.
music. This is a standard contract with the exception that we do comp some campsites for the organizers of this, and that's why you're seeing it come before you today.
Just so folks know, if you like this kind of music, it is amazing, and it's for 3 days, and it is just perfect.
It is food vendors, and there's some
Absolutely.
beverages for
Great
sale.
barbecue. It's a beautiful park. I'll make a motion. We accept a contract by between Weber County and Ogden Friends of Acoustic Music. Third annual Roots and Blues Festival to be held at North Fork Cutler Flats.
I'll second the acoustic music.
Acoustic.
Acoustic music.
All right, any further discussion? If there is none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer.
I think you're free. I don't see you on the rest of the agenda. Good work. Roberta, if you'll work your way up, this is a request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and the State of Utah Attorney General's Office for the local Children's Justice Program.
Good morning, Roberta Dustin from the Weber Morgan Children's Justice Center.
Good morning.
You should have received a copy of the contract amendment from the Utah Attorney General's Office. Last year, they issued a 5-year contract, so they're actually just amending this year. Out of that total contract amendment, $8,000 of it has been earmarked and come in through a different process to help us upgrade our interview rooms, so we'll have some more soundproofing that'll take place in there. Our general amount that is in that figure is $223,080.90, and that'll be for our general operations, primarily is for staff salaries. And like I said, the additional $8,000 will come in for the interview room upgrades. It is a slight increase, not a whole lot, but a slight increase from what we had last year because we had some additional interviews. That's how that contract is based, is on the number of interviews at the center. So we'll see about an additional $4,000 this year over and above what we saw last year.
I appreciate all you're doing there. It's kind of an interesting fact that when we originally started doing the Justice Center, they built the rooms really to be relaxed for kids to be in. There may be seascapes on the wall, stuffed animals and all that. Now they found that they want to go back to a more sterile process, just a kind of a plain room, painted, one color, couple of chairs and a table.
Non-distracting.
Yeah, non-distracting so they can focus and that on their interview. So it's kind of gone 180 degrees, and our director up there, Rod Layton, just does a great job, and staff. Actually, Roberta really runs the place. Don't let Rod see that. But she just does a great staff up there on protecting our kids and our community and our families. And so I appreciate what you're doing there. And the money is really hard to get for these centers. We scratch and get them and get what we can. And one interesting fact is this program was all started by Reed Richards, who was our county attorney at the time. And now I don't know how many centers are in the state, but he built the first one here.
22, I believe.
Yeah,
So-
and it was Reed that put it together. So what a great program. It's too bad we have to have it. I wish we didn't have to have it, but we do have to have it, and they do a great job. So
Weber
make a
County
motion.
leads the charge in a lot of things. It's kind of cool. Great people. Go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we accept the contract between Weber County and the State of Utah Attorney General's Office for the local Children's Justice Grant.
Second.
Okay, motion and second to approve this contract. Any further discussion? If not, we'll call the roll. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It passes. Thank you.
I asked the ladies to give you some other information that I could pass along to
I've
you
got it.
regarding our VOCA
Oh.
grant that we had
Okay.
requested, just so that you're aware of it. We do need to present that to you a couple times a year to let you know about that as part of that contract. The end of last calendar year, we requested during a short cycle that they opened up with the federal government and the state for the Victims of Crime Act funding, and we're able to receive some funding to help us pay for some staff that we had there that had been supported by a private grant through our friends that was really going to go away as time went by. It was a close-ended grant. And we were awarded that, and that went from January to June of this year. In the spring, when we had the opportunity to do that, we also wrote an additional grant to be able to continue that on and expand it slightly by being able to add another 8 hours worth of from another employee to come in when our victim advocate, it wasn't staffed on Wednesdays. And so we were awarded that as well. That VOCA grant will pay for the prorated amount for the additional individual going up to 24 hours. So they'll cover part of that benefits and that kind of thing that will come in just from that slight step in that. The additional funding that we had from our contract with the state will cover the other portion. So we'll be balancing pretty well there and be able to provide more inclusive and more appropriate victim services so that we're able to do that all the hours that we're open. Also provide some training for those folks so that they can stay abreast of what is current. So,
Great.
Are you going to count that as your VOCA?
I am.
So how many, just out of curiosities, how many different grants do we have that come in through that office?
Oh, that's a really good question. With our Friends Board, et cetera.
Right, so she may not know the answer, but that office, it's a nightmare keeping track of the money. Because they have to take their employee's salary and say, okay, this employee works 6.2% on this, and and she takes care of all of it there, and the red tape is as thick as it ever gets in that office, and so I appreciate all you're doing there.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Okay. Well, we voted on the contract, so we can move
Yeah.
on. Thank you, Roberta. We will move to item number 5, which is the request for consideration and or action on a request for final approval of the Sandhill Crane Cluster subdivision consisting of 7 lots, including a subdivision improvement agreement with the financial guarantee. Felix, we'll invite you and Director Grover up to the microphone.
I just wanted to do a quick thank you to you guys for letting us bring Felix down from the surveyor's office. Great addition to the planning department. So
Felix has his purple shirt on too today,
Yeah.
and I like it.
Well, we're going to try Felix out today and see how we like it. So. I'm not that excited
We're going to take
yet.
you for a spin
We're
around the
gonna
block.
try it out. Come on, Felix.
I think it was called lavender this morning. So, yeah, also I appreciate the time to present this project that for the consideration and action and approval for the Sandhill Crane Cluster subdivision consisting of 7 lots. In that staff report is also included the financial guarantee and the subdivision improvement agreement. The planning division and all other reviewing agencies recommend approval for the Sandhill Crane Cluster subdivision.
All right, Commissioners, any questions on this one?
That looks good to me. It looks like it's going to build some homes up there, so
Yeah.
I'll make a motion. Is it a motion you want, Carrie?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion. We accept final approval of the Sandhill Crane Cluster subdivision.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second then to approve this on final approval. Any further discussion, Commissioners? Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it, Felix.
All right, thanks.
And good luck down there in planning.
Thanks, Felix.
Rick's all right. Okay, request for approval of a memorandum of understanding by and among Weber County and the Department of Technology Services, Automated Geographic Preference Center for the acquisition of high-resolution LiDAR data. Charlie, good to see you.
Hey, thank you very much. It's always a challenge to get up to the podium, even when you are a veteran doing it. So hats off to Felix for the first time there. So this project is essentially it's a project that's fallen out from the initial startup of the Ogden Valley General Plan. As you'll recall, with the Ogden Valley General Plan, we realized we didn't have enough water data, so we went into the Ogden Valley Hydrogeology Study. From the hydrogeology study, we got better data about geologic conditions in the Ogden Valley. One thing that you're going to be hearing in the next few weeks is revisions and updates to the county's natural hazards ordinance, which includes geology. UGS, Utah Geological Survey, has been working diligently on creating better maps for the Ogden Valley so that we could do better at implementing our natural hazards ordinances. One thing that our old maps did was cast a very wide net on geologic hazard study areas. The new maps done by UGS still cast a wide net, but a lot more detailed and focused in places. But essentially what it does is it says these certain areas of the Ogden Valley and even some in Western Weber are natural hazard study areas. Developer, before you go develop, you got to do a full study and pay for it, and it's costly. What LiDAR can do for us is it can identify in better detail where actual hazards exist. Rather than casting a broad net, we'll be able to refine that a lot better so that we're not unnecessarily charging landowners for studies, natural hazard studies, when it may not even be necessary. Right now, we just don't have better information. The flying LiDAR will help us get that better information. Informally, UGS has committed to, once the LiDAR has been flown and the data has been processed, they've committed to providing better maps for the Ogden Valley. But in order to do that, they've got to have the LiDAR first. Normally, you wouldn't see the planning division asking for aerial imagery or LiDAR like this, but this is a good project for us to get going and get a little bit more detailed with natural hazards mapping. And then there's a lot of good benefits that can come from LiDAR flying, both in the engineering world and beyond. Any questions for me?
James, too bad we can't use them in patrol cars, because that's...
Not using.
Yeah, exactly, because they work out perfect.
And you're not using the word, because we don't want to say the word.
LiDAR.
Drones.
Oh.
Yeah.
The word is we're not using. But I think it's a necessary
So do I.
part of what we're trying to do, especially when we're looking for, areas that we have identified or we need to identify as hazards. So I think we roll with high tech because we want to provide the very best service. I say that to my back row folks back there.
A note on funding, 18,000, what do we got here? 18,268 would be the county's responsibility. There is a 3-DEP federal grant that is being leveraged in the amount of 11,101 with that. So it's a total project cost of about $30,000 that would have otherwise been the county's responsibility. Got some money to help offset that.
Awesome.
Okay.
So what do you want on this?
I'll make a motion that we approve a memorandum of understanding, or MOU, by and between Weber County and the Utah Department of Technology Services, an automated geographic preference center for the acquisition of high-resolution LiDAR data.
Second.
Or data.
Okay, motion and second then to approve this contract. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It passes. Thank you. Appreciate that, Charlie. Douglas, we've got a couple for you here today.
Like 3.
Several. Request for approval of an ordinance of the County Commissioners adopting the Great Salt Lake Minerals Corporation Economic Development Project Area Plan as amended. This might be kind of similar to what we saw in our RDA meeting earlier.
Yes. Good morning, Commissioners. And
Morning.
Thank you so much. A little latitude, if I may, Mr. Chair, to Commissioners Ebert's previous point. Indicate that you're using UAS technology.
Thank you. UAS. That's what I need to say.
Unmanned aerial systems.
Yeah, UAS. I'm going to write that down somewhere. Gets me out of trouble.
On to the action item.
Too bad you didn't say that before.
On to the action item. Thank you. Been a long morning. As you indicated, previously this morning, you assembled as a redevelopment agency and adopted by resolution an amended economic development project area plan in favor of Great Salt Lake Minerals Corporation, now known as Compass Minerals. Effectively, this amended plan, the only thing it does is change the project area boundaries of the economic development project area, effectively reducing the total acreage of the project area by about 34 acres. It's currently about a 500 acre boundary, and again, we're just reducing it by 34 acres. We don't feel as an agency that it significantly affects the participation agreement we have with Compass Minerals. Questions?
I don't have any questions. Do you have an ordinance number?
Is it an ordinance or resolution?
Ordinance.
Approval of ordinance.
This is an ordinance by the commission.
Okay, it's number 8.
I'll make a motion, we accept ordinance number 8 between Weber County and the Great Salt Lake Minerals Corporation Economic Development Project Area Plan as amended.
Second.
Okay, motion and second, roll call vote.
Commissioner Ebert?
Yes. Aye.
Commissioner Bell?
Yes, aye.
Chair Gibson?
Aye. Thank you, and I just think it's important to point out before we move on that we had a representative in our RDA meeting this morning who said that, who does business globally, who said that of all the places that they do business, Weber County is, what did he say? The very best? The very best? The very best. And I just point that out because you hear us up here talking all the time about economic development and what that really means. And I just feel like it's important to help us make the connection to the public. That what we're talking about is we create and foster an environment in which businesses can succeed. And that has an impact on our individual lives because that provides jobs and good quality jobs as we move forward. And so it really is kind of central to what we do in Weber County. And it's just a really positive thing. When someone stands up in a public meeting like that and gives that kind of a compliment, I'm thinking it's a poster for the work that we're doing and that our staff is doing, that all of the Weber County employees are doing. I think it's just a really great compliment. So hope you'll pass that along, Douglas.
Of course.
Okay. All right, we'll move to our next item that Douglas is going to present to us as well, and these are some transportation funding agreements. These are fresh on our minds as well because we just had them in our WACOG meeting discussed yesterday. So this first one, item number 8, is a approval of local transportation funding agreement by and between Weber County and Hooper City for the 4700 West Transportation Project.
Thank you again, Commissioners. As you indicated, Hooper City, 4700 West in Hooper City is among the qualified transportation projects on the state's regional transportation plan and of course, a project that qualifies for our local funding. Hooper City intends to widen 4700 West between 4800 South and 5500 South. Hooper City applied as part of our 2015 cycle, and the programmed funds were approved last year, and there was a minor amendment to the original amount that was approved in 2015. That minor amendment was approved by the COG last night. The total cost of the project is, in round numbers, $4.47 million. Hooper City has committed funds in the amount of $75,000, and they have also obtained $2.7 million from Wasatch Front Regional Council in terms of other supporting funds. This funding agreement commits $300,300 in our right-of-way or corridor preservation funds, and it also commits $1,381,853 from our sales tax for transportation fund. Any questions?
This project doesn't connect the dot to 4000 South, does it?
No, sir. No, not yet.
Needs to happen.
We're working that way.
I'll make a motion that we approve the local transportation funding agreement between Weber County and Hooper City for the 4700 West Transportation Project.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Passes. Thank you, Douglas. And this next one is between Weber County and Ogden City for the 17th Street Transportation Project.
Thank you again. These next two are actually amendments to contracts that were previously approved. Again, for Ogden City's 17th Street project, where they're addressing significant roadway deficiencies and better alignments. Ogden City was originally awarded funds on this project, or approved funds, I should say, back in 2014, and was part of our approval process last year under the original contract during 2015, contract number 63. Ogden City recently submitted an amended request seeking an additional $238,900 in corridor preservation funds, as the project has experienced some unanticipated and underestimated costs as it relates to right-of-way expenditures. So we're asking that we amend the total amount of right-of-way funding to equal $626,400 in right-of-way funding. We'd ask for your approval of this amendment.
I'll make a motion we approve the amended local transportation funding agreement by and between Weber County and Ogden City for the 17th Street Transportation Project.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes. And the final one, between Weber County and Harrisville City for Larson Lane.
Thank you again, Commissioners. As well, another amendment, Larson Lane in Harrisville City was a project that was approved as part of our 2015 cycle. And due to some unanticipated costs associated with the interchange improvements, specifically and most notably some requirements that UDOT had changed from the original bid estimate as well on this project. And this is kind of an indication of the health of our construction industry. This project only received 3 bids. The bids came in higher than they were originally estimated by the engineer a couple of years ago. So Harrisville is seeking an additional $127,914 in construction funding. And so that would bring our total construction costs or approved funds up to a total amount of $319,914. In addition, again, of $127,000. And if you have any questions, happy to answer. If not, we'd appreciate your approval.
I'll make a motion we approve an amendment to the local transportation funding agreement by and between Weber County and Harrisville City for the Larson Lane Transportation Project.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second to approve this contract. Any further discussion for that motion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes unanimously. Thank you.
And Douglas, before you walk away, we went through this a little bit last night, so this is just an update, but we had all these amendments because of unforeseen costs, consequences, or structures within these projects. And Mayor Taylor basically said, well, just as an FYI, we don't always amend up. Sometimes we amend down, and talked about over $1 million savings they had in corridor preservation that they were actually returning back to the transportation fund. So it's not always an upward mobility. Sometimes there is some savings found.
That's correct.
And it's interesting, we don't necessarily love it when we overestimate on projects. We don't love it when we underestimate. We try to be as close as we can and be straightforward with our budgeting so that everyone knows what these projects are gonna cost. And it just doesn't always work quite that way with fluctuations in the market, so we do our best to adjust. And I think it's interesting to me when we talk about our transportation projects and we see all these things come forward that the COG does, because the commission has to offer final approval on these things. But oftentimes then we come here and have discussion after discussion on Weber County's projects, because we then take the other side of that and implement those, put them into effect. But it's good to see what's going on through this third quarter cent county-wide, through these municipalities that are making good use of these transportation monies that have come to us with the opportunity to program them directly into these communities and identify these priority choke points and then have the COG gather around them as a unit and say, hey, we agree that this is a priority. It's just been a tremendous opportunity for us as a community to address these needs. And it's good to see all of these other communities taking leadership in their own areas and saying these things are important.
I would agree, and if I may, Mr. Chair, and we've said this or noted this here before, the local transportation funds made up of a sales tax component and a fee on the motor vehicle registration process. Since 2008, we've programmed funds across 44 different transportation projects to the tune of about $90 million, which has enabled almost $190 million in transportation projects that 90% otherwise wouldn't have happened. So it's a good process.
Sounds good. We're to our final item on the agenda, which is that of public comment. We're happy that Mayor Molesky's gone because he won't say anything crazy today. So we appreciate him coming and giving his perspective. Is there any other public who would like to comment today? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to our final item on the agenda.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second. Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned.